I'm Neil Shawn.
And I'm Bonnie Langford.
And you're watching Broadway World.
42nd Street.
Hi, Neil Shawn here in the beautiful splendour of the Theatre Royal Drury Lane with, of course, the star of the brilliant 42nd Street, the wonderful, the legendary Ms Bonnie Langford. Remember though, Bonnie?
If you miss it, you miss out.
Don't miss Bonnie today on your entertainment news. Bonnie, lovely to see you again. Now, we were just gossiping.
Yes.
And it's a few years. We last met when you were stuck in a lake.
Yes.
Literally.
Literally. Yes, the Lady of the Lake.
Lady of the Lake.
In Spamalot.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now you're back in this glorious, well, beautiful Theatre Royal Drury Lane. But you kind of like this role in 46th Street is not new to you because, well, shall we say you're playing a slightly different character this time around?
Yeah, I was in 42nd Street in the 90s. I was very, very young. Now, and I played Peggy, and apparently I'm the only person who's played both Peggy Sawyer and Dorothy Brock. And you know, for those who don't know, the story is all about a show within a show.
Yeah.
Dorothy Brock is the diva of the show, the star of the show, and then an event happens at the end of Act 1, and then Peggy Sawyer, who is the young ingenue, saves the day. So it is really strange to have played both those roles and to have that connection. And apparently I'm the only person in the world who's ever done that.
Do you know what? It's interesting because when you come back to it as a, shall we say, more established actress.
Yes,
right?
mature.
More mature. You know, what's
lived.
the difference for you? Because you know, it is. I think for anybody who loves show business, 46th Street is a fabulous because it's just from the off.
Yeah.
Exciting, isn't
Yes.
it? You kind of want to get out the seat and join in. Is
Yes.
the way I look at it.
Yes.
But what is it like for you being the other character now? Do you like that more? It tends to be a bit more spiky.
I actually really love the fact, I love the transition that Dorothy has because she grows so much. In fact, I mean, all the characters do, but really in a way, she's passing the baton on and dealing with her own issues and demons and all that, all wrapped up in tap dancing, of course. And I don't actually have to do any of the tap dancing, so I can go and have a cup of tea. But I love the progression of it and the fact that, you know, she graciously does actually turn around and say, do you know what? It's time for freshness, it's time for this youth to come and take over. And I think that is a very big thing, particularly for her to say. So in many respects, I enjoy playing Dorothy more because she has much more growth, even though it doesn't seem it at the beginning.
I have to say, because as you know, I've loved you for years, sweetie. But you know, when you join in EastEnders, showed to me and to lots of people what a brilliant actress we all knew you were. But you are a very, I mean, that great to be, because the thing I thought was the bravest about it was no makeup. I
know.
I mean,
a lot of people say that. My mother can't bear the fact that I was on. How can you be on television with no makeup? And I went, well, and in fact they put makeup on to make me look worse, which was fantastic. It was liberating. I think what happens, I mean, I had no idea I was going into EastEnders, and at first when I joined, I went for 8 episodes, and I ended up staying 3.5 years.
Because she was a different character when she joined. She was quite flirty,
Very
bit man-eatery, you know.
And she was very, you know, she was a divorcee, she was starting this new life, and she was quite sort of bubbly and out there and very keen to sort of be the best at everything, and she was quite sort of Essexy in a way as well. So, you know, and she was desperate to make her sons happy and establish this new life for herself. And then unfortunately, her youngest son, her 17-year-old son, was a victim of knife crime. And so EastEnders covered this story of this knife crime. And I think what they did was extraordinary because when they first told me about it, I didn't know whether it would be a story that lasted a week or a month or, you know, just then be forgotten. And it was not like that at all. They really invested in it. They treated it so sensitively. And I also had no idea that they were going to really focus so much on my character, on the mother's grief. But it was extraordinary to play. It was very grueling. It was very harrowing. But I felt really privileged. And to be able to just sort of open up and weep is very cathartic.
You know, for someone like yourself, we know you as bubbly, happy, upbeat, positive. You know, you are, I think, supremely talented, Bonnie. But you know, you have to really dig in to yourself to find those? Because it's not normally things that you probably deal with, you know what I mean? It's not your world, is it?
No,
You know?
you do have to go to some very dark places.
Yeah.
And I learnt so much on EastEnders, and I enjoyed it incredibly. The speed is unbelievable, how much good output of TV gets made a week. I mean, you're making 2 hours of television a week. That
Which is a
is
film.
ridiculous. Yes, I mean, and the expertise of everybody there is phenomenal, and to be able to do that so quickly and so efficiently is awesome. I still, would go in there and think, how is this actually happening? And to watch people, lighting, cameramen, sound, all just literally pulling it all together in such a short space of time. And in some respects, that actually works for the program, because it has this spontaneity about it and this immediacy about it. It's very fresh and quite raw. To do the story about the knife crime, I felt needed to be dealt with really sensitively and just really real. And so when they said to me, it's not going to be any makeup, I was like, no, of course not, absolutely. The worse the better, because I wanted her to be raw, because you would be. And it does take you to some very dark places, but if I don't think you can do a story like that, and I don't think you should do a story like that unless you're going to do it 100% and just dive in there, because otherwise it's sort of disrespectful to the people who are actually having to go through this. You know what? I don't work for that. I work for the fact that if somebody watches something or is in a theatre and they feel something and then they remember it years later, to me, that is the biggest gift and the biggest compliment they could pay.
Talk to things that we remember. I've seen you in so many great shows that we've just seen, So You Sweet Charity and Pirates and stuff like that. Do you have a favourite? Because you've done so many, in the sense, but, I guess, is it the one you're in? I mean, I know it's a cliche thing to say, but you look around this theatre and you think it is a privilege, because we're not, I think people don't understand in show business, there's no guarantees for work. You just
you're as good as your last job.
Yeah, you just if somebody calls you.
And also and also it's timing. Sometimes the most fantastic job can be offered to you, and you're busy doing something else, and you just can't. It's completely juggling. It's just what people know a lot more about that now, because it's called freelance. Yeah. But in the old days, nobody understood that you don't have a job after this one, and that's part of the thrill as well. Is that you hope that a lovely job comes along, and that's exactly what happened here with Water Second Street. They completely out of the blue, they said, would I do it? And it never even crossed my mind. So I am absolutely thrilled to be here. But this particular theatre is just, it's my home, it's my history. I started here. I made my entrance over there when I was 7 years old in a musical version of Gone with the Wind. And I did Pirates of Penzance here, as you mentioned, when I was 18. And
though,
I just, I know, but I feel like I'm part of this building.
Was it inevitable
wonderful.
then that you were going to do, be in show business? My parents, as I say, are. I wasn't sure, but then you think, actually, I don't like anything else.
No, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
There is something about, when you feel you're wearing the right shoes, when they fit, it's like Cinderella and the glass slipper. It just fits. So really, if this is what makes you tick, you need to be there. There's, you can do other things, but sometimes you just, you come into a place like this and you breathe out.
Yeah. Well, I've got to say, I've got to take you right back. One of the big things that I do recall watching, and you were an inspiration genuinely, well, both of you were, was watching yourself and the late and brilliant Lena Zavaroni on TV on a special, which now we don't have on telly, but it was a big budget special, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I remember I'm sure I'm right there, so you were on the front cover of the TV Times.
Yes, we were.
We were.
With lambs.
Yeah, and I remember thinking, I want to do
goats and
that.
things.
Yeah, and you did all these great songs and all this sort of stuff together. And I remember thinking, wow, you're at that age, you are so envious. Because somebody so young is doing what you need. How do I become that? You know what I mean?
But kids love watching other kids, actually.
Yeah, it's inspirational.
There's a sort of an empathy as well. They understand what's going on, and there isn't that patronising thing, because kids just get on with it.
Yeah.
And with Lena and I, we had that connection because we were professional. We had fun, but we knew that it was work. So we took the work seriously, but not ourselves. And I think that's important to keep that all the way through life in general. Yeah. But and we were friends off stage, but we weren't singing and dancing off stage. Yeah. We would enjoy it when we were on screen, and what we did together, and we would have fun with it, but it wasn't all showing off. And I think a lot of people, when they're in show business, especially when they're young, they're considered it's showing off, it's getting people's praise, it's doing something to please their parents or their family, and that's when it doesn't last. It has to be when it's in your veins, not anybody else's.
Because I was re-looking at it the other day. Everything's on YouTube now, and you both look so full of life, and you really enjoyed it. We know, it's tragically what happened to Lena, but what was it like filming that? Was it hard work, or was it different?
It was manic. We made that whole television special in 10 days. We recorded the entire thing. They'd never got adults to do it. And we had to go into school in the mornings and do schoolwork, and then rehearse in the afternoons, and then shoot in the afternoons. And I think we had 3 days where we did solid in the studio, and it was in the wonderful London studios, in Studio One in there, and it was just great to do. And then there were certain things like, for example, they wanted us to sing Kids, which was written by Charles Strauss for Bye Bye Birdie, and they couldn't get the PRS on it, they couldn't get permission to do it, so they wrote another song that was very similar to Kids, so they just changed about 4 of the notes, and we had to learn it differently. But there was something about doing it together that was just so much fun, because we both understood. Yeah, I know, and we both got it, you know. And it was a lovely team, and people like Kenny Warwick was one of the dancers, and Kenny Warwick runs American Idol now. He's the showrunner of it, and you just think, all these people, and Chris Power was one of the dancers, and he now does I'm a Celebrity and all the live Ant and Dec shows, and he's the director of it. And all these people that have got that sort of history, and we all did that together. It was I feel really privileged to have been part of that era as well.
Yeah, that's what it's. People talk about a golden age, but it really was a golden age, because you had like opportunity notes. And when I look at the talent shows of the old times now, they seem kinder. You know, in some respects.
Yes.
I mean, you didn't see the tears if somebody didn't win. You know, I remember every week watching New Faces and stuff. And what I liked about those shows were the people that were critiquing you were professionals.
Yes.
So you felt like, well, he is a comedian. You know, respect. Whereas now you kind of look and think, what have you done? There's a bit of that for me,
it's a different era. Everything's so much faster now. I mean, with social media and all that sort of stuff, it's really, it can be very cruel. You don't get that chance to make mistakes in public and then try again. And that's what life's about, is you only really learn from your mistakes. And if they then flatten you too much, then you just got nowhere to go, you know. It can be very daunting.
Very. We've got to talk also about another cult show, one of my favourites. And you actually, I only watched it when it was the first time I'd ever seen Doctor Who.
Oh, right.
Seriously, because I'd seen it when I was very young and I was frightened of the dark.
Yeah, I used to hide behind the sofa. I never watched it before I was in it, and I certainly didn't watch it when I was in it either. That was a definite turn off for me.
But now we've got a female doctor.
I know.
And I was thinking, you know, it's like you're thinking, wow, you know, they've had a lot of female assistants, but now, first female doctor. Wouldn't it have been different if it had, say, someone like yourself being the assistant to the new doctor? Because it's just your history, her new, you know what I mean?
I know.
It's a little bit strange to now flip it and put, as much as I love Bradley Walsh, but do you know what I mean?
Brad.
It's kind of a strange concoction, but when did that role come about? How did you get all of that?
Oh, that was completely freak. I think I was in Joe Allen's, the restaurant, one night and met John Nathan Turner, and John Nathan Turner, who was the producer during the sort of the classic years, they call them now. Well, they call it classic. I think they're going to call it vintage soon, but they call it classic. He loved having guest stars, and the amazing part was, when the show was on then, everybody wanted to be in it. I mean, they still do now. These sort of guest stars would appear. I remember at one point being at some kind of function, and Roger Daltrey was saying, could I be in it? And you think, that would have been amazing, the Who in Who. I mean, and they couldn't work out the scheduling. I mean, people were wanting to be in Doctor Who at that point, and still do now to this day. It's iconic. I'm really glad that they've refreshed it, and because it was quite tired when I was in it, but it was certainly something I had never expected to be in. But John Nathan Turner, as I say, I met him in a restaurant and went, oh, I'd love to do that, and then basically it happened. And I never really sort of understood how it all came about. My character didn't have any history. I was just kind of like plonked in the middle of the show. But now what I do quite often, we do these audio dramas. It's like doing a radio play, but it's all about Doctor Who.
Them, though,
and I love them because, you know, it's that old thing of radio. You've got, you know, nothing is better than your imagination to take you to a different place. And it's sort of, it mixes up those combinations as well a bit more. So, you know, maybe that will happen. I think that you know, Doctor Who is actually timeless, literally, pardon the pun. And I'd be interested to see what happens with Jodie. I don't think she knows what's going to hit her, actually, because it's a whole other world.
Because when the fans get on board with stuff like that, they love you forever,
Yes.
don't they? I mean, have you done those conventions?
Yep.
And what are they like? Because you know, we filmed a few, and you just do feel the love for the people.
You
It's
do.
a strange, you know, I don't know if it's strange, but, you know, odd, because they dress up as the characters
Yep.
and they know all the stuff. They
Yep.
know more about it, actually, than some of the actors.
Oh, they know a lot more about it than I do. I have been questioned about things, and I have to sometimes either make up stories or just to be able to have a decent answer, or I do literally turn around and go, I don't know, I can't remember, it was a long time ago. There is this wonderful support, actually, and it is a whole community. And people, you know, there have been births, deaths and marriages because of those conventions and the support of Doctor Who and things like that. So, you know, people like to get behind things. In the old days, it used to be people would collect stamps. Now they collect costumes and Doctor Who and all these different, you know, fandom things. And I don't think there's any harm in it. I
Did
think
you
it's
keep
lovely.
anything from that period? Because I don't think we did in
I've got
that
a couple
era.
of props. I've got
Oh,
a
you
couple
got
of
a couple, yeah.
props. Might have a few little costumes, and I've definitely got scripts
Oh, wow, that's it.
in a box somewhere in
was clever,
storage.
though,
But
yeah.
yes, I did keep them.
Because you know what I mean? We didn't keep things, did we?
No.
If somebody said hand it back, you handed it back.
handed it
you
back,
know,
yeah.
like,
I know.
Okay, you
Yeah,
know,
I know.
You think, okay.
I've got a few bits and bobs, yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Now, I've got to ask you, of all the things you've done, who's, you know, people look up to you and there's young girls who are inspired by someone like yourself, but who inspired you originally? Who did you sort of think, oh, I like this person?
I think someone who had a great impact on me when I was younger and still to this day is Angela Lansbury.
Oh, love her. Yeah, nice.
She played my mum. She played Mama Rose in Gypsy when I was at the Piccadilly Theatre in London playing Baby June. And then she was instrumental in me going to America with her, with the show. And we toured America, and I was on Broadway by the age of 9, playing her daughter. And what was so instrumental to me was her work ethic and her offstage ethic. She is the kindest, most generous woman, presence and charisma, but also a real honesty and a truth about her, a real sort of vulnerability, and also she's authentic, she's real.
And I think at that age, that makes a big impression on someone like yourself, because you could have been somebody who's equally not that nice. Do you know what I mean? You think, ooh, you're not going to be like that.
You learn a lot, you know, when you're, especially I think a lot of kids who are in the industry, you spend a lot of time with adults, and you work out very quickly who you want to emulate and who you like and who you don't like, and you learn a lot by watching. You know, that's how you last in anything, is by watching, learning, listening, and just paying attention. And it's the people that you model yourself on. That's when you kind of you learn so much. And as a kid, it's actually great because you don't have to do any of that chatting and, you know, just schmoozing, because you can just be a quiet kid in the corner and you're just watching everyone. I used to be the dullest child ever, but I was watching everything.
Yeah, you're right, actually, because you just think, I better shut up here because I lots of talking.
Yeah.
But you would then pick up.
Yeah, you listen
what
to it
they're
all, you're
saying.
taking it all in.
What was Broadway like, though? When you say, you know, you're that age that you are, 9, did you realise how big it was? Did you get how big a deal it was, or did your mum sort of keep that quiet on the
Oh
lid?
no,
and
she
go,
kept it under the lid, but it was exciting, and I was allowed to be excited because kids over there at that time, in the 70s, were much more animated than we were as kids. You know, in England, you were told to just be quiet and not talk to anybody, which I did, and they
Stand
thought
up
I
when
was an
somebody
absolute
comes in.
mouse. Yes, exactly. Just don't speak unless you're spoken to, and so I didn't. But these other kids were much more gregarious, and that actually brought out my confidence much more. So it was really a big transition for me. It was a big growing spurt in many ways. But and I did know that it was something quite exciting to be part of, and I also knew that to go out there on that stage, I used to make my entrance at the very beginning, and I would stand on stage behind the curtain and listen to that orchestra play every single night the overture from Gypsy, which I think is probably one of the best overtures ever, apart from 42nd Street.
It's just showbiz, though, isn't it?
Oh, it just is phenomenal, and that would just, I mean, there's no getting away from it. The other day, they did a media night here for me at 42nd Street, and they made me do the finale. I came down and did a little bit of tap dancing in the finale with the rest of the company. That doesn't happen any other night, hasn't happened any other night, because I played Peggy and Dorothy. So we came down and we did this, and I got that sound again, that roar of the crowd and that roar of the orchestra, just booming out this amazing music. We're in the Money, it was.
Yeah.
And I thought, whoa, it's a buzz like no other.
It is, isn't it? And it's a thing that, you can't describe it, but it's better than any health drink
Yes.
or anything. If you're fed up,
It's a tonic.
It's just the thing.
It is a tonic. It is medicine.
Yeah.
It is medicine. It lifts your soul. I defy anyone to leave this theatre without feeling some kind of joy and uplift and adrenaline buzz.
And but what's lovely about 46th Street as well is it's what I call an old-fashioned glamorous show.
Oh, yes.
And everything's been gritty for a few years, do you know what I mean? And I get bored of grittiness, I just want to see glitter. You want to come in and escape.
Yes.
I think that's the thing.
It is.
If you've got mortgage problems, kids problems, whatever, you come in here and you just take me away for that time. I just want to forget my world and come
It's
out.
escapism.
Yeah.
I mean, it starts off with saying, it's 1933, it's the Depression, it's been hard, everybody wants this job. They say, the kids are like, I'll be able to pay my rent, I can get milk for a week, and all that sort of stuff. And so there is that, it's based on a kind of a need and a need to survive, and the way to survive is to tap dance your way out of trouble. And then it just lifts your spirits constantly. I mean, there's 59 people in this show.
Which is a big cast.
A big cast, big orchestra, 108 wigs, costumes are beautiful, and they're beautiful, they're all hand beaded. It's extravagance, it's absolute extravagance. So you come in, you've paid a lot of money to come and see a show, but you really get your money's worth here, you really do.
And we have to also touch on, you've done 1 or 2 pantomimes.
Yes, I have.
And pantomime, people always, but I love it. I just think it's the time of year you can be daft.
Yes.
And is it, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it great that if you forget your lines, it doesn't matter?
No.
It's not like here where you go, oh, I've gone wrong.
Yes, you do need to remember them here. They have been sort of written rather carefully. But panto is a lot more. Well, I mean, also panto, the audience need to feel like it's fresh and that you're having a bit of a laugh. It's all sort of, because panto is different, because the audience are kind of the fourth character in it. You've got everyone on stage, but then you've got this extra character which is called the audience. Yeah. And occasionally you ask them to participate, but you, as the actor on stage, you have to be in control of that, and that can that can go horribly wrong in many instances. But also, what's great about that is that it's very much family orientated. So you have to be able to appeal to all those generations who are hopefully coming together to see a show for the first time, and that I think is really important. But 42nd Street's a little bit different, but because it is, we are welcoming people into this world, and then we are very much telling this story. Yeah. But certainly the audience give it that lift. We don't particularly want them shouting out, but applauding and cheering is gratefully received.
It's not too dissimilar, as you rightly say, though, to Gypsy, because showbiz fables, as we call it. I love those things where you have a peak. It's like Sunset Boulevard, isn't it? You look into the world of this poor, mad woman, and actually it's a very beautiful musical. It's a great film, it's a beautiful musical, because it's so sad that she can't connect with the fact that it's over, if you like, and the pet monkey and everything. You think, oh, is this going to be me?
It's tragic. It's tragic, but also it's wrapped up in this sort of brushstrokes of grandeur, and that we're all basically trying to play different roles to whoever we are at the time, and yet it's about that tragedy behind the mask, isn't it? Well, I suppose it's the whole comedy tragedy thing.
Is there any role that you still would love to do, or do you just because I don't mean this rudely, but I think you'd be great as Norma Desmond, purely because you've lived through, you understand the world of show business, and I think to play that role you have had to have rejection, great heights, great pits, everything. And the audience know your career because we've all grown up. You know what I mean. It's not, you can have great, and it wouldn't be good to be great all the time. No, because you never know the bads.
No, you've got to know. You, as I say, you learn more from your mistakes. You also, when they say an actor's resting, that's absolutely the last thing they're doing when they're out of work, and you can,
right.
And exactly. But also, you're constantly trying to create more. You have to be very proactive, and to survive in this industry, you've got to. You can be on stage shouting, and everyone shouting and screaming at you, and then you go home to no one. Yeah. And it can be this complete sort of huge transition, a huge change within a minute, and it's about keeping that work-life balance. I remember Petula Clark, she was doing the tour of of Sunset, and in the US, and she's quoted as saying that she was with this lovely company, very young, they were all very friendly and lovely, but she didn't really feel comfortable, and she was traveling, and she's traveled so much in her life and got many homes, and she sat on that big staircase on stage one day before the show, and she thought, now I'm at home. Sort of on that staircase, on a stage, and that's the place when she felt at home. And it's sort of true, and there is a sadness about that, but there is also some kind of comfort as well, that at least we have these wonderful highs, and it's just about balancing out how you negotiate when you're in the trough as well.
Yeah, and I think it's hard as well, isn't it? Because I think for women, men, it's this cliche, but it's true. Men become distinguished, women just get older, you know what I mean? And it's so cruel, because it's kind of like, but you can be this wonderful sex symbol, There's a picture, we won't name it, but a beautiful sex symbol from the 70s in the paper. One of the boys said, God, she looks old. And I thought, but you wouldn't say that about George Clooney.
No, I know,
but
I tell you what was wonderful. So this is another fantastic woman who had an impact on me when I was young. So I was in a TV series called Just William, and Diana Dawes played my mother. I was Violet Elizabeth Bott, and one day she came into the rehearsals, and she had old leggings and a big t-shirt on and flip-flops. She drove in her Rolls Royce, got out of it, came to the rehearsals, and on the back of this t-shirt it said, I was Britain's sex symbol. And I loved her for that. And it was just fantastic. And the next day she came in and she was doing her book launch, and so she was all dressed up. And I noticed that it was like bees around a honeypot. Everyone was just gravitating towards her. And I just remember that woman. She was so real. And that really meant something to me, because she's real, absolute professional, fabulous actress, strong woman, vulnerable as well. But you know what? She knew what she was. She said, I was Britain's sex symbol. I can be again if I choose to be, but today I'm wearing an old t-shirt.
And it's lovely that you were able to meet these people in your development, because I think that's what's very hard now. As you rightly say, you've got a young daughter, and I worry about people with social media, because the images that
it's
are presented
fake.
is not, the reality is you can be this 1 minute, and then, I remember Margaret Lockwood, the old actress,
Yes.
she came on fag, and, all this, and then she got the wig on, and she was Margaret Lockwood again, and I thought, wow.
And you can be many different people in your life.
You have to be.
But mainly you have to be yourself inside.
And learn to love yourself.
Yes, you do.
So tell me about your daughter. Is that going to be, are we going to see another generation?
Well, she does love this. She does love the industry.
Naturally,
she loves
sweetie.
it. Well, she'd either love it or hate it,
Yeah.
wouldn't she, I suppose? And she loves it. And I suppose she's used to it. It is in her genes.
When
and
she
also,
told you though, did you kind of think, I kind of was hoping you might be a doctor?
I did say, you do realise that, you're taking on, the sort of legacy in a way. But she's very much her own person, and I'm very, very pleased, and I want her to make her own footprints. She will, she will do exactly what she wants to do, and she will learn the way she needs to learn, and she will always have me behind her to say, I love you. That's all.
Well, that's what it's about, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yeah, you just need your mum. And
Yes.
So would you like to work together though? I
Oh,
think that would be. Could you get,
I don't know. I mean, I'd love it, but I'd probably cry all the way through, and she'd probably say, "Oh, stop being ridiculous."
But she's at that age now. But when you get a bit older and you really respect what they've done, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, she doesn't listen to anything I say particularly, but that's okay. I wouldn't want to tell her how to do it. It's for her to find out.
That's
If she
really-
asks me, I would tell her,
Yeah.
and if she asked me, I would give her my take on it. But she has to find her own way.
Have you ever thought about doing your own, like autobiographical, if you like, one-woman show?
Yeah.
Because I think it would be fascinating. We're only skimming the surface here of what you've done, but you talk about Angela Lansbury, you look at all these people that you've worked with, and it is fascinating because you started out so young. You were there. I think you absorb far more when you're young. You
do.
take it in.
Yeah.
And you realise, these people were brilliant, and you kind of are grateful for having those moments in their presence, if
Yes,
you like.
and private moments.
Yeah.
Because nowadays there's no such thing as a private moment. Because it's always filmed.
Everything,
Can I film this? And there's times when you wish you did have a little film of something.
Yeah.
Because you think, did that really happen? I mean, in this theatre, I've now gone back to instantly remembering something, which was when I was in a Royal Command performance, a Royal Variety performance here, and it was all about theatre. It had a theme.
Yeah.
Norman Maine put it on. It had a theme, And I was in Pirates of Penzance on this stage at the time. That was in residence, and we were doing a number from the show. And my little dressing room was at the back there. Claire Holtz, who plays Peggy Sawyer, she's got that dressing room now. And it was divided into two, and I had one little side of it. So I kept my little dressing room for the Royal Variety, and then the other dressing room for that one night only was being occupied by Ethel Merman. And so we stood at the doorway having a chat. And she was in her...
It's surreal, isn't
oh, I
it?
know. She was in her terry toweling dressing gown, and she had spongy rollers in her hair and her slippers on. And she went, "How long is this show going on? Oh my God, it's taking forever, the show." And then we talked about Gypsy and stuff. And it was just one of those magical moments. And then she came out here and literally walked out and went, "There's no business like show business." And it was just phenomenal. And then she came back in and put her dressing gown on. And, it was just those things that... were just fantastic, and I got to have that as
And
my
you could
little
never
personal
plan
memory.
that, could you? You couldn't.
No.
Do you know what I mean? It's so
No.
surreal, like she's in the rollers. If you'd have been asked to meet her, which you'd have been
Oh
in
yeah, it would have been
Merman
all
mode.
glamorous, but no, she opened the door and I was in the other dressing room. She went, "How long's this show going on?" And it was just brilliant. It was because the Royal Variety in those days went on for hours, and also most people spent their entire time in the wings watching who was on stage.
People.
So the fact that we were both in the dressing room on our own was just this special, lovely moment.
What's it like being in a Royal Variety? A lot of people, it's the pinnacle, isn't it?
Pressured.
I was going to say, it's the pinnacle of a career.
Yeah.
I don't know, I often think, I know I sound like an old fogey now, but I often think it comes too quickly sometimes for the generation today, because I feel that you kind of, when you got it, there was a tick to say you were letting you in.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
you were invited.
You were invited.
You
in.
earned it in a way.
What was it like, say the Queen, or who was in your box at this year? Was it the
Oh,
Queen
that
Mother?
year I don't really. I think it was the Queen. Yeah, that year was the Queen. Then quite often the Queen Mother, Margaret. I did a Queen Mother's 90th, which they all came to, and. That was at the Palladium, and we did all the meet and greet afterwards. And Margaret was so funny because she came around and she said, "I couldn't see a thing, darling. I was stuck in the corner, but Mother seemed to enjoy it." And it was just those sorts of things you just think they're just hilarious.
Did you get nervous
Hilarious.
when you met the Royals? I mean, because it's
Not meeting
again,
them.
It's like,
I think that's. I don't get nervous meeting. I think it's lovely.
Yeah.
I think it's lovely to meet them, but. You do wonder. I did a show the other day with Bradley. We're talking about Bradley
Yeah.
Walsh, and we did a thing for Dame Vera Lynn, and that was at the Palladium. And I could only be there that day because I was doing EastEnders, and I literally turned up and was thinking, I don't even know if I remember this song and all this stuff going on. And then they said at 4 o'clock, we'll do the line-up for the end, and then obviously you turn to the box and then you bow. And I went, "Why are we bowing to the box?" And Bradley said, "Because she's in." I went, "Who's in?" He said, "Queen." I went, "Bradley, stop." And he went, "No, she is. She did. She came privately to see the show." And then I was thinking, I'll never remember these words. I'll never remember the words. But, it was lovely to think she came to salute Vera.
Yeah, and that
Beautiful.
I think that's the nice thing actually about performing for the Royals. You don't realise that it is a good event that they put on.
Yeah.
It is. It's not just a
Makes it
charity.
special,
It makes
doesn't
it
it?
special, and there's a reason to lift that performance.
It
a little
lifts
bit,
the
isn't it?
performance and it lifts the audience because they
Yeah.
realise there's something special.
Yeah.
Queen Mother came here when I was in Pirates of Penzance, and we had for her birthday, and we had a cake, and it must have been 82, and they set the fire alarms off because we had 82 candles. Oh, it was awful. The whole place went. We've got this huge cake, and they're all going,
Terrible.
"Blow the candles out! Blow the candles out!" Oh, I
If
tell
it was
you.
a bloke, nobody bothers, but any woman at any age, it's just.
Yeah,
let's
it's
just.
the candles and setting the fire alarm off. Oh, dear.
So the end of the run, tragically, here at Drury Lane finishes with you for 42nd Street. What's the plan after that? What do you want to do after
Oh,
that?
for me? Well, I mean, the show ends here on January the 5th because the theatre is closing for 2 years for major refurbishment, which I hope is wonderful. But I feel really honoured to be here for that last performance.
You can say you've
on
closed the
stage. I've
theatre
closed
now.
the theatre. Yeah. I have closed it.
Will it
I didn't open this one, but yeah, not quite that old. But to think, that's going to be a very special night. And then I actually go on the road I've recorded an album
Lovely.
with Maria Friedman and Leslie Garrett. We've called it The Golden Girls. And we start a tour. So I finish here on January the 5th. and then I go off on tour from January the 12th. So it's a little bit hectic.
So you're not one of these that likes to slow down then? No. Are you? Do you get bored if you're not performing? Do you know what I mean? Can you?
Well, I think my mortgage likes to be paid. Actually, I think that's a lot to do with it. But you know, I mean, I do understand the value of rest, and you do need to do that. But you know, things happen sometimes just as they happen, and you go with the flow.
And how did the idea of the Golden Girls come around, the album? Because it's a great mix of great show business, if you like. I'll be buying it.
Different, yeah. Do you know, I've heard it, and it's fabulous. It's really fabulous. It's so classy, beautiful voices, beautiful music, 90-piece orchestra. The orchestrations are incredible. Lovely mixture of songs, which we have all chosen for different reasons. We all sing together. It's not a case of one person sings one song, one person sings another. We all make this lovely blend. And there's songs, there's songs like This Is Me from The Greatest Showman, but there's also Feeling Good, there's The Way We Were, there's Nobody Does It Better, there's show songs, I Know Him So Well, As If We Never Said Goodbye from Sunset Boulevard, which you referred to. And the reason why these songs were chosen was because they sort of have a narrative that can be reflective of where we are in our lives in this sort of 50-plus era, but also for people who want to be taken to a place that's reflective or joyous or forward-looking. So we're looking at the past, but also we're looking to the future, and it's very current and very present. We're not trying to be, rap artists, but we know where we are, and also, we've been there, done it, and we're survivors and still looking very much forward, and got a lot to give.
I bet it'll be fun touring though, because just have, the three girls of you together, because it's just all hair and makeup and laughter, isn't it?
I have no idea what it's going to be like, but I think there'll be a lot of laughter.
It's got to be, isn't it? Because it's like, you don't have to bother too much. You think, well, and of course, when you get on there, there's that nice thing, because you're also individually, singer-wise, different.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I mean, Leslie's as mad as a box of frogs.
Absolutely.
But I love her,
I know.
And Maria's
we're all as mad as a box of frogs, I think. I think we've all got our different senses.
Whose idea? Who came up with that then?
Well, it was the record company came up with the idea. I don't know, but I'm so glad they did. They talked to me about it a couple of years ago, and I couldn't do it with my end of schedule. And then at the beginning of this year, I said to my agent, I really need some music again. I miss the music. And I've, talk about making a wish and it's come true, because I couldn't wish for any better music.
Would you say the 50s have been the best period for you, in this thing of it's the regeneration, isn't it, if you like? You've changed people's perception of you. You seem a lot different in character. Maybe because we've seen you do, you've expanded as an actress.
Yeah, I think you become a bit more comfortable in your own skin. And it doesn't mean to say that you don't still feel nervous or worried or anxious about things, but you somehow put them a little bit more into perspective, and hopefully you learn that if there's a situation, you can cope. You can cope, and the world will still turn, and you've just got to keep refreshing and staying where you are now, not living the past or the future too much, just enjoying it, enjoying the moment.
Bonnie, as ever, I've enjoyed this moment.
Thank
it's been
you.
Absolutely brilliant.
So have I.
Thank you, sweetie.
Love
Gossip
you,
all day.
sweetheart.